The morning sun rose slow and golden over the rolling fields, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the fresh blacktop. Heat shimmered off the road in wavering lines, and for a moment Daniel Reeves just stood there, hands on his hips, breathing in the smell of tar and triumph. The hum of insects filled the air, punctuated by the distant low of a cow and the rhythmic tick of his cooling engine. He had done it. After years of bumping down that miserable dirt track, after all the winters when rain turned it into a swamp, and summers when it baked into ruts that could swallow a tire, he'd finally paved it. It wasn't just a road, it was freedom. For years, Daniel had promised himself that one day he'd have a road that didn't chew up his truck or shake his bones. Something solid, something that lasted. The asphalt gleamed, smooth as glass, stretching a quarter-mile from the county road up to the gate of his 40-acre farm. He'd paid for every inch himself, right down to the final layer of sealant. The crew he'd hired from town had finished only yesterday, packing up their equipment with handshakes and compliments. "You've got a fine setup here, Mr. Reeves," one of them had said. "Bet this road'll outlive us all." Daniel smiled at the memory. He leaned against his pickup now, wiping the sweat from his neck with a bandana. The air already carried that midsummer heaviness, the kind that made time slow down. His dog, Rusty, trotted up from the barn and sat beside him, tongue lolling. Together they admired the dark ribbon of asphalt cutting through the field. "Looks good, doesn't it, boy?" Daniel said. Rusty barked once, a soft sound that broke the silence. Daniel had built this life himself. The farm wasn't fancy, but it was his paid-off, managed on his own terms. Corn stretched in neat rows beyond the pasture, and the new irrigation system was finally running right. There were still debts, still things to fix, but for the first time in years he felt ahead of the game. That's when he saw the white SUV. It appeared at the far end of the road, rolling in slow and careful, like it didn't quite belong. Daniel squinted against the glare. It wasn't one of his neighbors. He'd know if it were. The SUV was spotless, the kind of vehicle people drove when they didn't expect to get dust on their shoes. It stopped a few feet away, and two people stepped out. A woman in her 40s with a clipboard and sunglasses perched in her hair, and a man in khakis who carried himself like he owned the place. They smiled like realtors. "Morning." The woman called out brightly, "You must be Mr. Reeves." Daniel nodded, wary. "That's me." She walked up, extending a manicured hand. "I'm Kathy Walters, president of the Meadow Ridge Homeowners Association. This is Steve, our maintenance coordinator." Daniel didn't shake her hand right away. "Homeowners Association," he said slowly. "You folks are down the hill, right? Other side of the creek." "That's right," she said, still smiling. "We just wanted to come by and congratulate you on your new road. It looks wonderful. You've done quite the improvement here." Daniel relaxed a little. "Well, thank you. Been meaning to do it for a while. Makes getting in and out a lot easier." "I'm sure it does," she said, glancing around, taking pictures on her phone. "So, this runs from County Road 6 up to your gate, yes, that's right. And you contracted it privately?" "Yes, ma'am, paid for it myself. County didn't have anything to do with it." Her smile tightened. "I see, that's interesting." Steve was already crouched near the start of the road, running his hand over the edge where the asphalt met the public lane. He took a few photos, then stood. "It's flush with the subdivision entrance," he said, like Daniel wasn't standing there. "Technically, it's continuous infrastructure." Daniel frowned. "Continuous what now?" Kathy flipped a page on her clipboard. "The thing is, Mr. Reeves, our HOA maintains Meadow Ridge's main access road, and your new paving connects directly to it without a natural boundary. That means, under our charter, it can be considered part of the shared infrastructure." Daniel blinked. "You're telling me this road I built is yours now?" "Oh, not ours exactly. Kathy said quickly, though her tone carried the kind of patience people reserve for explaining rules to children. Just under our oversight for consistency, it helps with long-term maintenance, insurance, and security. You'll appreciate it once the new gate goes in. Daniel stared at her. Gate, yes, she said, like it was perfectly reasonable. The HOA voted last week to install a new security gate across the entrance here. It'll help limit access from non-residents. Of course, you'll still have full use once you register your vehicle and get an access code. Hold on, Daniel said, raising his voice a little. You can't just take my road. I paid for this. It's on my property. Oh, I understand how you feel, Kathy said, glancing at Steve as though they'd expected resistance. But according to the parcel map, the first 20 feet from the county line fall within the Meadow Ridge boundary. The rest, well, it's a shared-use corridor now that it's paved. These things happen when developments expand. Daniel felt heat crawl up his neck. This isn't some shared-use corridor. This is my land, she sighed, lowering her sunglasses onto her nose. I'm sure you'll want to discuss it at the next HOA board meeting. We can send you an invite. I'm not in your HOA. Technically, now you are, Steve said, flipping through his own papers. Once a property connects to common infrastructure, you're subject to shared-use regulations. It's really just for everyone's benefit. Daniel stared at them in disbelief. You mean to tell me I build my own road with my own money, and your board just votes to take it? Not take it? Kathy said smoothly. Manage it. You'll find we're very reasonable people. Daniel took a step forward, squaring his shoulders. You better get off my property. She paused, her polite expression faltering for the first time. Mr. Reeves, there's no need to be hostile. We're all neighbors here. Neighbors don't steal from each other, he said. The woman's lips pressed into a thin line. She gathered her clipboard, gestured to Steve, and turned back toward the SUV. We'll be in touch, she said. The installation is scheduled for next week. They drove off, dust rising behind their tires, the SUV white body shrinking into the haze. Daniel stood in the middle of the road, the smell of asphalt suddenly sharp and bitter in his nose. Rusty whined beside him, tail low. Yeah, Daniel muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. I don't like them either. The road stretched out in front of him, silent again, smooth and black and beautiful. But now it felt different, like something fragile he had to defend. He watched the shimmer fade as the sun climbed higher, and a tightness settled in his chest. He'd built this road for himself, for his land, his work, his peace. But standing there under that blinding sun, Daniel Reeves realized something that twisted like a splinter under his skin. Around here, nothing stayed yours for long. The following afternoon was hot, enough to melt the tar right off the new road. Daniel came back from town with a load of feed in the bed of his truck, humming along to the radio and thinking mostly about lunch. The road gleamed ahead of him like a black river through the fields, the kind of sight that still made him proud even after a few days. He'd been careful about it, too, made sure drainage was right, edges compacted, all by the book. But as he rounded the last bend near the county road, he hit the brakes. Something silver flashed across the entrance. He blinked, squinting against the glare. Then his stomach dropped. There, stretching across the start of his brand new road, was a gate. Not the old kind of farm gate you hang from a fence post, no. This was something out of a suburban dream. Polished steel bars, keypad mounted on one side, decorative lanterns on top of stone pillars. A bold white sign in the center read, Private Access Meadow Ridge HOA members only. Daniel put the truck in park and climbed out, dust puffing up around his boots. The heat radiated off the asphalt, and even the air seemed to hum. He walked up to the gate slowly, half expecting it to vanish like a mirage. But it was real, brand new, installed cleanly, with concrete bases sunk into the ground he'd graded himself. He reached out and touched the cold metal. A keypad light blinked red. He tried to push it open, but it didn't budge. Locked solid. Unbelievable, he muttered. Rusty jumped down from the passenger seat, padding up beside him. The dog whined and sniffed at the gate post. Daniel kicked the dirt in frustration. It wasn't just that they'd installed it. It was that they'd done it without asking. Without even a knock on his door. He pulled out his phone and called the number on the little plaque fixed under the keypad. For access assistance, contact Meadow Ridge HOA. A chipper recorded voice answered, "Thank you for calling Meadow Ridge Homeowners Association. Our office hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Please leave a message." Daniel stared at the phone. "You've got to be kidding me." He hung up, then dialed Kathy Walter's number from the business card she'd left on his porch 2 days ago. Straight to voicemail. "This is Daniel Reeves," he said, trying to keep his voice even. "That gate you put across my property, take it down, immediately. You don't have my permission, and you're trespassing. You've got until tomorrow before I make it official with the county." He ended the call and stood there for a long minute, jaw clenched, staring through the bars at the road he'd built. It looked different now, divided and claimed. A car approached from the other side, one of those small electric carts the Meadow Ridge folks liked to ride around. A couple sat inside, both wearing sunglasses and big smiles. The woman in the passenger seat waved like this, was the friendliest thing in the world. "Afternoon," she called as they slowed to a stop on the other side of the gate. Daniel tipped his hat, though his face stayed hard. "Afternoon," he said flatly. "Beautiful road, isn't it?" she said, beaming. "We just love what you've done. The new gate looks wonderful, too. So secure. You must feel much safer." "Can't say that I do," Daniel said. "Oh," she said, blinking. "Well, it's for everyone's protection. Keeps out strangers. HOA really improving things around here." Then the man punched a code into the keypad on their side, and the gate swung open with a soft electric hum. They rolled through, waving again as it shut behind them. Daniel watched them disappear up his road, the road he'd poured his sweat into, and he felt something twist deep in his chest, a mix of disbelief and rage. By the time the gate closed again, the heat on his face wasn't just from the sun. He spent the next hour pacing, called the sheriff's office, who told him it was a civil matter, called the county office, where the clerk promised to look into the parcel lines. Each call ended the same way, with polite voices, paperwork promises, and no action. When the sun started to dip, Daniel sat on the tailgate of his truck, dog panting beside him. Crickets had begun their evening chorus. The gate glowed softly now, the lanterns flickering on automatically as the light faded. Someone had thought of everything. Someone had taken everything. He picked up a rock and tossed it at the sign. It clanged against the metal and fell uselessly to the dirt. "Come on, Rusty," he said finally. "Let's take a walk." They followed the fence line, cutting through tall grass, past the old oak tree that marked his property boundary. The sound of cicadas grew louder, filling the air like static. When they reached the far corner, he stopped and leaned against the post, looking back. From here, the gate was just a dark silhouette against the purple sky, and then he saw it, something small and new. A second sign had been added below the big official one. Someone must have nailed it there just today. The words were painted by hand in uneven white letters, but they were clear enough even in the fading light. "Property rights are paved, not granted." Daniel stared at it for a long time. The message was anonymous. No signature, no clue who'd put it there. Maybe one of the old farmers nearby, or maybe just someone who'd been watching. Whoever it was, they understood. He felt a small, bitter smile pull at his mouth. "Guess I'm not the only one who sees what's going on." Rusty wagged his tail, sensing his mood shift. "Tomorrow," Daniel said softly, "tomorrow we sort this out the right way." He walked back toward the truck under a darkening sky, the lanterns from the gate casting long shadows across the road. He'd go to the county clerk first thing, file a complaint, bring the survey maps, the receipts, the proof that the land was his. He wasn't about to let a committee with matching shirts and name tags take what he'd built. But as he climbed into the truck and looked once more at the gate, its cold steel gleaming under the moonlight, a different thought crept in. He did own a bulldozer. It was parked behind the barn, yellow paint faded, engine still strong. He used it mostly for grading driveways and pushing brush. The thought of its blade meeting that gate was almost too easy to imagine. One good shove, and the whole thing would crumple like tin foil. He gripped the steering wheel, staring through the windshield, and for a moment he could almost hear it, the screech of metal, the crunch, the gate folding to the ground. Then he sighed, shook his head, and drove slowly back toward the house. The law first, he told himself. The law would handle it. That's what laws were for. Still, he left the barn lights on that night, and before he turned in, he checked the bulldozer's fuel tank, just to make sure it was full. When the morning came, the gate would still be there, tall and shiny and locked. But so would Daniel Reeves. And, one way or another, he planned to open it.